Our next step is to put in whatever time schedules are needed for this restaurant. In our system, those are called profiles, since they can do more than just on and off. The system is very capable and can do a lot of functions that we're not necessarily going to dive into in this video, simply because we don't need them for this install. We can create a new profile. We can give that a name. We'll call this After Hours. Something that we haven't really talked about with the nLight system up to this point in the video is that all of the relays are normally closed, electrically held open. What this means is in event of power loss, system failure, hardware failure, all of the relays will default to closed, keeping the lights on. What this means from a scheduling perspective is we don't actually have to tell the lights when to be on, rather we need to tell them when to be off. When don't we want the lights on? So sort of have to think about it slightly the inverse of how you might be typically thinking about your lighting schedule. So we'll call this After Hours. We want this to affect our dining room and our kitchen. And then we can add a setting. We're going to change these to Override Off. We want the lights off during this schedule. And then we're also going to add three more, excuse me. Special modes, we're going to add a timed override delay of 2 hours, a special operating mode, manual to override normal, and then blink warning enabled. So what this is going to do, whenever this schedule is active, it's going to turn the lights off. It's going to require anyone coming into the space after hours to manually turn them on using the override switch, at which point it'll start a 2-hour timer. At the end of that 2 hours, the lights will blink 5 minutes before the timer expires as a warning to the occupants, hey, if you're still here and want the lights to stay on, go hit the override switch to get another 2 hours. Otherwise, if nobody has hit a switch, the lights will sweep back off again. This timer will automatically expire whenever this schedule is not active. So if somebody came in at 4 a.m. to accept an early morning delivery, turned the lights on, lights are going to stay on until 5:55, at which point they blink, and then if nobody is still there or has hit the switch, the lights will turn off at 6. If somebody is still there taking inventory in, and they've used the override switch after that blink warning, the lights will stay on for an additional 2 hours. Let's say, however, store hours typically have the lights turning on at 7 a.m. Even though we have used the override switch about 6 a.m. and activated a 2-hour timer. Once we hit 7 a.m. and the schedule ends, those lights are just going to stay on until the following evening. And then down here, under the schedules, we can assign when we want this schedule to be active. A few different options. We can do daily if our store has the same hours every day of the week. Once a week if we wanted to assign a schedule for a specific day. Or more than once a week if we wanted to do, say the store has specific hours Monday through Thursday, and then it operates a little bit later or a little bit earlier over the weekend. We can create multiple schedules simply by clicking on New. For our purposes, though, this store has the same hours every single day, and folks are typically going to be there between 7 a.m. and 1 a.m. So we want the lights to be off from 1 a.m. to 7 a.m. So we can change this to 1 a.m., and this schedule is going to end at 7 a.m. So it'll be active for 6 hours overnight only, and it occurs every day, and we can tell it when to start and if we want it to end after a certain number of occurrences. For our purposes, though, we want it to be every day. So we can then hit save, and that's going to push this schedule out into the system, and it'll immediately take effect. Alright, our schedule is now saved. It's showing us synchronized here. We now need to do a second schedule for our exterior sign. Say we want this to be on dusk to dawn, but not necessarily on during the middle of a bright sunny day. If we hit New, we can select our exterior sign. We'll call this Sign. And we're going to change its setting to Override Off. Don't necessarily need to worry about the 2-hour timer. It's an exterior sign. And then we can select the box for astronomic time clock. Remember how we set our time, date, and location earlier on the Gateway 2 JFX? The system is automatically going to use that to calculate when sunrise and sunset occurs for your location. So we want these lights off from sunrise to sunset. We can pick an offset here. I typically recommend 15 to 30 minutes offset one way or the other. So we want the lights to turn off, say 15 minutes after sunrise, and then we want to turn them on half an hour before sunset. That way, as it's starting to get towards dusk, the lights are just on, and nobody notices that they click on right as it gets dark outside. We can then hit save. And that's it, you're almost done. The next step is to go out, use your override switch, verify that everything is working correctly. If there's anything that's working differently than you expect, you can always come back into sensor view, make whatever adjustments are necessary. If you're lucky, everything's doing what it's supposed to do, you can simply disconnect your computer from the network, walk away, programming is complete.